Thanks. I just want to press you on that point about the idea of disclosures when it's appropriate. You describe a process, but it sort of feels like a strategy, a communication strategy to protect the president from political damage. Was it the hope and expectation here that this would have remained a private matter and not have been subject to public disclosure?
Look, Stephen, that's your version of the case. I've been very clear here, and I've answered that question multiple times in different versions, right, in the last couple of days. Look, want to be very clear. There's a process, colleagues there.
We have done both, but let me just ask you, because oftentimes in the careers of White House press secretaries, there comes a time where they are asked, what they knew and when they knew it. Were you or any member of your staff involved in the crafting of a strategy as to when this disclosure should be made in advance of CBS News breaking the story on Monday evening?
No.
The president has said he hopes to speak about this soon. When can people expect to hear from him?
Don't have, again, that is something that I can't, I don't have a magic wand here. I don't know when that's going to happen. What I can say is his team is going to fully cooperate with the Department of Justice. We have said that we are going to continue to fully cooperate. We have been. The president's lawyers and team has been fully cooperating with the Department of Justice, and they're certainly going to do that with the special counsel.
And so, by that reasoning, would the president agree to sit for an on-the-record, in-person interview?
I'm not going to get into specifics or get ahead of what's going to happen. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals because that is a hypothetical. What I will say is we have addressed this multiple times at length.
And let me just ask you a big picture question here. Does the White House, broadly speaking, have an obligation to share not just with the National Archives, but with the American people when the existence of classified information is found in a private location?
Again, there is a process in this.
But just big picture, not necessarily in this instance, but is it the policy of the White House that they should share that information not just with the National Archives, but with the American people?
So I'll say this, Kristen. We have been transparent in the last couple of days. What the actions that we took were right actions that his team took in dealing with the Department of Justice and also the archives. Look, I have.
You guys have answered questions when the press has broken in the news.
Because it's an ongoing process. But again, I have taken questions. I can take two questions to 100 questions. I have answered your questions as almost every day on this issue.
The president campaigned on the argument that he would restore confidence. We know that he's in the process of deciding whether to officially announce he's running for re-election. Does this episode undercut that argument that he would restore confidence? Because here we have in the headlines that he is now under investigation.
He's restored independence in the Department of Justice. That's what we're doing here. When we're saying we're going to refer you to the Department of Justice, that is restoring independence as it relates to issues like this. And again, this has been done in a transparent way when it relates to how this was dealt with the Department of Justice and the archives. The president takes this very, very seriously. Any other questions that you may have about this particular issue?
I just have a question about process and classified documents and their handling, because I think there's some confusion amongst the public and even in this room. What is the process to make sure that classified documents aren't accidentally or intentionally taken when a president or vice president leaves office? What's the protocol, or is this sort of just a self-review system?
It's a good question. I would, on the process and how that works, I would certainly refer you to the White House Counsel's office.
U.S. Attorney John Losh was looking into this for several weeks before. He was in touch with...
Looking into what exactly?
The classified documents. Okay. He was in touch with President Biden's counsel. I wanted to know, was President Biden, was the White House surprised that, along with Merrick Garland, that they decided that more investigation was needed and a special counsel was appointed? What
I can tell you is that we were not given a heads up. You want to know specifically about the review? I will refer you to the Department of Justice.
When President Biden did say, God willing, he hoped to be able to say more soon. I mean, it seemed like he was thinking that the investigation would end soon. Was he surprised?
I'm just not going to go beyond what the president said.